Reporters and journalists play a big role in promoting fights, platforming fighters, and sometimes inciting feuds between these athletes. But every now and then, a media member will find themselves in hot water with one of the fighters. Now, without further ado, and ranked in no particular order, here are 10 times fighters feuded with reporters. Number 10. Jon Jones. Jon Jones knows how to shut someone down. And though he has largely been absent from the media during his 3-year hiatus from the sport, his return will probably bring some gems like this. Luke Thomas is an MMA analyst who splits people down the middle. Some adore him, others tune him out when he's on the mic. Jon Jones, as it turns out, is among the latter. During the lead-up to UFC 214, Thomas asked a pretty straightforward question, only to be immediately shot down by Jones, who simply refused to answer his question because he doesn't like him.
I'm wondering, as you turn 30, what would you say about your 20s? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it somewhere in between? How would you look back on that decade in your life?
I don't really like you, Luke, so I'm not going to answer your question.
Say what you want about Jon Jones, but when he's cold to you, he has a real talent for showing it. Who knows what Luke said to him to anger him so much? But either way, he's far from the only media member to have given their 2 cents on this divisive all-time great. Number 9. Jon Jones. And why leave it to just one entry for the former longtime light heavyweight champion and current king of the heavyweight division? Jon Jones just so happens to be excellent at deflecting and avoiding answering tough questions. And when this reporter tried to do some actual journalism by asking him a legitimate question about his very vague issues with USADA, he incited the crowd to boo her in response, calling on her to sit down while asking for better questions.
How come this is the 3rd time we're actually taking focus from the fighters and the fights and talking about what you have in your body, whether it's a picogram or a pictogram? Why have you tested now positive?
Next question, please. Thank you.
Hold on.
Someone
Hold on.
Sit down. I want to
Thank
take the
you.
mic from her. Better questions. Better journalism.
picogram
You
in
suck.
his body.
In truth, the whole situation didn't exactly paint him in a good light, but in the end, he avoided answering the question, so the whole thing pretty much worked out exactly as he intended. Number 8. Conor McGregor. TMZ has a terrible habit of rubbing people the wrong way, and when it came to a pair of interactions they had with the notorious Conor McGregor, they truly did make an enemy of him. Speaking to Conor for the first time, a reporter asked him if he thought he could beat Jesus Christ in a fight.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
How would you versus Jesus in the octagon? How would he fare?
Taking it as a good-humored question, Conor answered,
Not a man alive that can beat me. But Jesus ain't alive, is he? So I don't know. Maybe he could come back from the dead. I don't know. I'd still whoop his ass.
Unfortunately, the young Irishman at the time was not as experienced with the media as he is today, and as you might expect, he came under fire for the blasphemous take. So, when the very same reporter tried to ask McGregor another silly question, Conor immediately remembered him and told him exactly what he thought of his line of questioning.
You called him a cholo in there.
He's like a little cholo gangster from the hood.
That's kind of racially motivated. Did you mean to say it like that?
Mate, shut the up and get away from me. Remember that Jesus you brought up?
Yeah.
It's such a stupid question, man. You're an idiot.
As you might expect, he hasn't answered another question from the same guy since, and it's pretty understandable. Number 7. Dillon Danis. And from Conor McGregor, we move to his former friend and sparring partner, a man who went from legitimately interesting BJJ to MMA crossover prospect to laughingstock of the entire sport. Look, we know as much as anyone that Dillon Danis could turn some of this around if he, actually fought. But after a spell of inactivity, things went from bad to worse for Danis when he made the mistake of making an enemy of the veteran reporter Ariel Helwani. And to say that Ariel roasted him badly would be an understatement. Helwani invited Danis onto a show only to make a fool out of him at every turn.
You're not going to shake my hand?
After.
Wow, what a move. You know there's only two kinds of people who wear sunglasses indoors. Blind people and assholes. You treat everyone like you're disrespectful to everyone in the community. Conor is the reason why anyone in MMA knows who you are. I didn't know who you were.
That's not true.
I saw your clip of hitting the pads.
You like that?
I feel pretty confident that I could hit pads better than you.
A 10-7 round from Ariel. And to be honest, we don't think Danis will ever get the upper hand here. Number 6, Tony Ferguson. As public figures, sometimes the lines get blurry when it comes to knowing where a fighter's boundaries are. But when it comes to a guy as wild as Tony Ferguson, it's damn near impossible to know when you've hit a nerve. And when this reporter tried to bring up the subject of his mental health at a press conference, he was shut down pretty quickly.
You seem to be in really great spirits. I commend you for going headfirst into some mental health issues and working through that. It takes a lot of courage as a professional athlete, especially. A lot of people look up to you. I was giving you props. I was just wondering
advice. Next question.
I wasn't giving you advice, sir. Sorry. Okay.
In truth, Tony had been going through a rough time, and the reporter probably should have kept his focus on his return fight, rather than trying to make a very personal matter public. The lesson? Maybe keep your questions strictly professional, especially if you're dealing with someone as unpredictable as this lightweight legend. Number 5. Colby Covington. If you've tuned into any UFC press conference, you'll likely know that John Morgan has dibs on the first question to the fighters at most of them. And while his interactions with the athletes are generally pretty cordial, Colby Covington was one of the few guys in the UFC to take issue with his line of questioning. And during the UFC 268 presser, ahead of his bout with Kamaru Usman, Colby exploded at Morgan, telling him he wouldn't answer his question until the veteran reporter dropped and gave him 10 push-ups.
Listen, you admitted that you were a little too emotional last time out, right? That was the problem. I'm just curious how you manage that, especially against the guy that you clearly don't like. How do you manage those emotions on fight night to change the result this time around?
John, you were getting real slick with me yesterday. You're a clickbait merchant. You were saying I was undeserving and didn't deserve to be up here. Well, guess what? You're undeserving of getting an answer from me. If you want an answer from me, get down and give me 10 push-ups right now. Get on your hands and knees. What?
Knowing Covington, this was all tongue-in-cheek, so John Morgan decided to just laugh it off. Number 4. Jason Mayhem Miller. Jason Mayhem Miller was one hell of a fighter in his heyday, but unfortunately a number of very personal problems caused him to go a little off the rails during his later years as a pro. Several high-profile legal issues and some worrying personal behavior forced him out of the top flight of MMA. But during a promotional tour for his role in the movie Here Comes the Boom, Mayhem was a guest on Ariel Helwani's MMA show in one of the most bizarre interviews you'll ever see. During the interview, Miller refused to break character, insisting that Ariel call him by his movie character name, before storming off the set in a rage.
Mayhem Miller.
No.
Yeah.
Look, my name is Patrick.
So your name in the film is Lucky Patrick.
That's my name.
Kevin
Look, I
James.
feel like you need to take notes, bro.
Oh, come on.
Is that thing on?
It is, actually. Oh, man. Come on, man. Let's talk. What's going on, man? You know, man.
Yo, bro, I'm Yo,
okay.
You know what? You guys have a stupid internet radio show in your mom's basement.
That's it? You're going to do this?
You know what I'm doing.
Thankfully, the pair patched up their relationship years later, with Miller making another appearance on the show in 2020.
I got you! I was in character, and I wasn't breaking. Lucky Patrick would tell you off. Jason Miller loves you.
Number 3, Nick Diaz. This next one is just about as iconic a moment as you'll ever see between a fighter and a media member. Nick Diaz is a man who does not appreciate how the media works in this modern game. In his eyes, when he signs on the dotted line to fight, he doesn't appreciate being asked questions about what this cage fight means to him and what he thinks of his opponent. That's just the kind of guy he is. And in one memorable interview with Ariel Helwani, he took the veteran reporter to task for his habit of instigating fights between the fighters.
I don't have much to say, you know.
Something against me? Do you not like me, Nick?
I feel like you instigate fights quite a bit.
Fights between the fighters?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
And with that, one of the greatest one-liners in MMA history was born. It's not like Diaz actually hated Helwani or anything, but the way he tried to explain his position here was just too funny to ignore. Perhaps one of the most unintentionally hilarious people to ever set foot in the sport. Number 2, Nate Diaz. And what better way to follow up on Nick Diaz's poignant take on the media than to circle back to his younger brother Nate, showcasing exactly what happens when you make that very same mistake. Speaking to a Full Send reporter, Diaz immediately brought up the fact that he had talked smack about his teammate Nick Maximoff in the past, and without wasting a moment, Nate immediately slapped the mic out of his hand before giving him a slap to the face for good measure.
You better watch what tweets about who fought recently.
Oh, I know.
Seem harsh? Well, the reporter in question actually didn't think so, admitting that he probably deserved what he got.
Nate Diaz, Nick Maximoff, you guys had every right to call me on my I think it was just his way of saying, hey, bro, you know, you got to watch your mouth. Whatever's coming to me right now, I deserve.
Say what you want about the Diaz brothers, but when push comes to shove, they certainly back up their talk. Number 1, Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen and ESPN reporter Dan Le Batard are a pair of guys who always seem to butt heads.
What happened in that press conference? We got asked questions by the media, and then we responded to them with our voices.
Chael, am I wrong when I say that you've been unusually respectful to John Jones? I'm not used to hearing you this way.
Well, Le Batard, I don't have all the details, but if you said it, you're most likely wrong.
Maybe it's a personality thing, or maybe it's because every time he's had a chance to interview Chael, he does everything in his power to try to peel back the layers of his gimmick. Chael, being the professional he is, never once breaks character.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Silva the champ?
Yeah, I will correct you. You are wrong.
That's not your belt.
The real champion sits before you today, undefeated and undisputed.
Either way, his persistence has resulted in some of the funniest interviews you will ever see.
Third interview for you. I'm very pleased about this.
Third interview in sports' most unwatched broadcast. Wow, look at me.
It's literally always a pleasure. Thank you.
I literally could never say the same, but you are welcome.
It's hunting season. New t-shirt just dropped. The hunter is now the hunter. Yeah. Say less, just watch. Cop that tee. Now.